Hello and welcome back to a Squirrel Plays. Today we're going to be talking about something exciting. We're going to be talking about death. Okay, maybe that doesn't sound too exciting, all things considered, but I promise you I'm not crazy. We're going to be talking about death and storytelling, whether that's a book or a movie or a video game, ttrpg, doesn't matter. But before we get started, I would like to shout out Brave Alice Games Kickstarter real quick for RPG stories. I mentioned this tool in the last video I made because it was the whole reason I had the idea for the video in the first place. The Kickstarter will be going live on April 16th, but if you'd like to see this tool actually run a game inside of it, me and Avenue Studios will be playing a game in it with the director of RPG stories acting as the GM. That'll be on April 17th at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, and as for who is going to be streaming it, I haven't worked that part out yet. It will either be Avenue Studios and me each streaming it on our own channels, or it'll just be Avenue Studios. Super looking forward to that. Link for the Kickstarter is in the description, but keep in mind it doesn't go live until the 16th. All right, back to the show. Okay, so with that out of the way, what is all this nonsense about death? Haven't I done a video on that already? I have, actually, and I have a couple more that I want to do on the topic. I'm beginning to think I might have a questionable obsession. But mental concerns aside, today's focus is going to be about how a lot of times I feel like death has lost its meaning in storytelling. And really, I'm honing in on movies and TV shows, but the thoughts still apply to any platform. And of course, as with any of my videos, obligatory, I'm not your dad. You're free to write however you want. These are just some squirrely thoughts of my own that I think could help you get more out of your stories. And on the note of squirrely thoughts, the video will also probably be a bit squirrely. I usually attempt to make some kind of overarching point in my videos, but I can't say I'm always successful in that regard. The past couple videos I made, I decided to just let my thoughts go where they may instead and try to open the door for conversations to get started. And, well, those videos did a whole lot better than my usual ones do, so yay squirrel brain, I guess. You can let me know down in the comments how well it's received. So, allow me to ramble through a few examples of what I believe to be bad writing examples and useless on-screen death, and we'll see what we can do with them. This will probably come as a surprise to absolutely nobody who has seen any of my other videos, but I will start with Star Wars. That's right, I'm talking about Stormtroopers. When you see these guys show up, just how many of you are actually concerned for any of the heroes, or really any character on screen? If I had to guess, probably none of you, and who can blame you when we have scenes like this to tell us just how fearsome they are.
Slap.
Man, I'm telling you, I've seen some bad movies and shows in my time, but hoo boy, the Obi-Wan show really gave it their all. Anyway, Stormtroopers die left and right in the Star Wars universe, and several of them die in ways one might even call humorous, and I'm aware that I'm most likely in the minority here, but I do find that pretty tacky. I mean, look at this one. There was absolutely no need for that. That was for entertainment and nothing else, as are several others. Death should mean something. It should tell you something about the world or the characters we're learning about, or both. I don't expect the characters to mourn over every Stormtrooper death that takes place, nor do I think they should, but the deaths of those Stormtroopers should still tell us something. They should be useful for the story attempting to be told. And what did this death tell us, along with the other ones alongside it? It tells us that Stormtroopers are incredibly stupid. And there's probably somebody out there that will make the argument that Stormtroopers really are stupid, or at least not very well trained. They're cheap recruits, right? And while there might be some truth to that, there's a couple things to consider. One, I feel like most people would have known to get out of the way of the boulder, training or no training. But more importantly, if the story is wanting to tell us that Stormtroopers are indeed stupid and untrained or poorly trained, then it's contradicting itself because we're told earlier in that show that Mandalorians are ruthless fighters, skilled killers, top-notch warriors, and all that jazz. But yet, several Mandalorians were killed by Stormtroopers. So if the story is correct in showing us that stormtroopers are stupid, then Mandalorians are even dumber. And trust me, that's far from the only contradiction the show has going for it. But really, if you just absolutely had to crush a stormtrooper with a boulder, you still could have. A small arrangement to the scene was all you needed. The same stormtrooper could have been on the turret firing away and the boulder came from a different direction. He wouldn't be able to hear it over the gunfire, and another trooper might have been waving at him to try and get his attention, and the gunner turns at the very last second and sees the boulder coming, and then infinitely less stupid, and you still get your boulder death. Granted, that does absolutely nothing for the rest of the insanity that takes place in that gunfight, like all the stormtroopers just running to their death constantly instead of using their weapons, but I'm just a squirrel and can only do so much. Now, if we jump back over to the Obi-Wan show, there's a scene with the laser gate that totally blocks their path. There is no way around this thing. And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call sarcasm. Like and subscribe for more. When we see this gate and all the stormtroopers around it, we already know what's going to happen. We know one of those poor souls is about to get the raw end of the deal, and sure enough... Bzat! Little Leia doesn't even bat an eye when she walks past it, nor does she seem bothered by the other bodies around her. Plus, we get comments like this. Again, that death was nothing but entertainment, and again, it did not have to be that way. Just like the boulder we had earlier, you still could have had your death and made it mean something. Heck, you could have used the gate to make things more interesting. You could have shot a couple of stormtroopers on ground level back into the gate and chopped them up real good. Or better yet, Obi-Wan could have gotten into a brawl with the last trooper and kicked him or shoved him intentionally into the gate and shredded him. If that happened, then you could have that gruesome death shock little Leia. It'd make her see Obi-Wan differently. She probably would have been terrified of him. It's a lot for a little kid to see and take in, but because the stormtroopers are constantly treated as a bad joke, she doesn't care. Now, if we stop picking on Star Wars for a second and move on over to Marvel, we have this scene from the second Black Panther movie, and I know I'm walking on thin ice criticizing that movie. A few of the main characters are being pursued by the police, and the road ahead is blocked. Big brain Riri here thinks she'll be clever and crash a drone into the blockade and blow it up. And blow it up she does. Now, when I watched this originally, I thought she killed about a dozen cops because that's sure what it looked like. While making this video, I got on YouTube to find the scene and use it, and I saw people arguing back and forth about whether or not she killed anybody. Turns out I wasn't the only one that thought she killed a bunch of cops. Admittedly, you can see some of the cops getting away just in time here at the corner, but even then, I fail to believe she didn't kill any of them in this scene, or at the very least permanently cripple them for life. You know, what with the flying, exploding car and all that. If she didn't hurt any of them, it was extremely lucky. Either way, the fact she tossed a drone at innocents in what seems an attempt to kill them is never addressed. It just happens for the sake of a pretty explosion, and that's it. Now, what does that tell you about her as a character? It tells you that she is a lunatic. She's supposed to be the super smart, gifted individual. And look, I know I'm over here rocking my last two brain cells that are fighting for third place, but even I know that wasn't the grandest idea. But hey, let's say it happens. Let's say a few cops get caught up in the explosion. Instead of just completely ignoring what she did, wouldn't it have been some interesting development if we saw her get scolded for what she did? Maybe she miscalculated. She thought it would have worked out, but no, she made a mistake. Now the seed of doubt has been planted in her. When the time comes to put the suit back on and be a hero, she'd have to overcome that fear because she'd be afraid of hurting the wrong person. That fear could follow her all the way into a battle and maybe cause her to hesitate and make something even worse. Or hey, maybe the others scolded her a little too much and the villain uses that to his advantage. He convinces her that she is a genius and she did make the right move. The others just don't see it that way. Riri might join up with the villain temporarily. Who knows? We won't, because those deaths, or possible deaths, I guess, were just there for entertainment and never explored. Now, I had a few other things I was going to talk about originally. I was going to get into how bringing characters back to life after a supposed death can really make a death meaningless. And on top of that, I was also going to get into video games a little bit and use Dead Island and Days Gone as some examples of what to do and what not to do. Unfortunately, by the time I got to the end of it, the video was a bit too long. And really, that wouldn't have been the end of the world, truth be told. But I have been playing with my audio lately, and I kind of put myself between a rock and a hard place. I was trying out a new audio setup, then realized it wasn't sounding as good as what I had to begin with. There was a lot of back and forth and Googling and watching YouTube tutorials and experimenting, and if you fast forward about 2 or 3 days, I recorded a 20-minute script about 15 times over, as well as editing them front to back a few times. Eventually, I started to realize that I didn't even like a fair chunk of the script, on top of not liking the audio. Normally, by the point that I'm recording this script, I've already started editing the video. But here I am, starting from scratch and doing it all over again. So needless to say, I'm a little bit behind, which means those topics will have to wait, and in all honesty, they probably deserve their own videos anyway. Some storytelling techniques using video games as a platform would be a pretty interesting topic, I think. Plus, I've already been wanting to talk about Days Gone for a while now because it had such a good story and did a lot of things so well. So with those excuses made, let's get into today's shoutout. And this might sound like a cheap cop-out, especially after the excuses I just made, but I really did want to give a big shout-out to all of you. That last video on VRPGs, or whatever we decide to call them, had a lot of good comments on it. You guys shared a lot of thoughts, and I think I read my way through all of them. Y'all told me all about Arma 3 with the Zeus mod, and apparently Neverwinter Nights even had something way back in the day close to what I was getting at, as well as some other games I had never even heard of before. A handful of you even had projects of your own that you're working on that fall into that hidden realm between tabletop and video games. Shoot, one guy even had the brilliant idea of fusing ttrpgs with physical fitness, and I know that probably sounds terrible to a lot of you, but it was actually a really cool concept, and I hope he sticks to his idea. I definitely look forward to promoting his Kickstarter when the time comes, as I do for the rest of you. It's really neat to see what y'all are working on, as well as all the thoughts you share. Granted, it does give me a lot of homework and things to look into, but that's besides the point. That's just the part of being behind the wheel of this whole community thing. So do keep on sharing your thoughts, projects, creations, and interests, because that's what we're here for. And on that note, what do you think about how modern media seems to handle death? Or at least media from billion-dollar studios with years of experience that should know better. Do you care about death flippantly happening on screen? Do you think Stormtroopers deserve to have more impact on the story? What is the right way to do it in your opinion? Squirrel out!